Welcome to The Big Picture, the program where we take a step back from day-to-day news and try to look at events from a broader perspective. I'm Carandang. The Supreme Court has been in the limelight recently, mostly because of a rather controversial decision on the petition of former NEDA Chairman Romulo Neri on executive privilege. Tonight, it is our privilege to talk to someone who knows the workings of the Supreme Court and knows the law. It's no less than the former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Artemio Panganiban. Sir, good evening, and thank you for inviting me to your home.
Good evening, Ricky, and it's my pleasure to be in your program. My pleasure also to invite you to my house.
Well, it is an honor to be here, and we're here in your room, sir, where there's a lot of memorabilia from your term as Chief Justice. We'll take a look at it a little bit later, but you have a little story about that nameplate there.
Yes, that was given to me by the inmates of Muntinlupa. You know, before I became Chief Justice, I was invited to deliver a speech before them. There was some hesitancy because no Supreme Court Justice has ever done that. Finally, I said, I better visit them. And I went there. You know, I was surprised because they had a song and dance number, they had a band, they had even a skit. And I spoke off cuff and I said, like you, I was very poor. Because, you know, I sold newspaper when I was a boy, I shined shoes, I sold cigarettes in the streets. And of course, I started with that to identify with them. And then I finally said, don't be too sad that you have bars before you, that you are imprisoned, because almost everyone in this world has his or her own imprisonment. Some people are imprisoned in the mind because they're crazy, or some people are imprisoned by illness, incurable illness. Some people are imprisoned by their wealth because they cannot move around without bodyguards. I said, you're even luckier because with good behavior, you will be released soon.
From their prison. From
their prison. Unlike so many people who cannot be released from their prisons. So they were happy, and when I became Chief Justice, they sent that. And several other carvings.
Yeah. And now that you're out of the court, I noticed that you've been pretty active. I mean, you've been pretty visible. You have your column in the Inquirer. You've written a number of books. And of course, you gave a lot of speeches.
Well, column really, I promised that to Marixie Prieto even before I retired. She wanted me to write 3 times a week, but I said, I'm qualified to write only once a week. As to speeches, I also avoid speeches. I also avoid public appearances, but there are certain occasions where somehow I cannot refuse, like with
yesterday.
You.
Like yesterday.
Yesterday with the World Bank. You know, the World Bank was our lead partner in our judicial reform program. And when they asked me to keynote that, what they call a marketplace of ideas, I couldn't refuse. Not only because I owe them for helping us with our judicial reform program, but also I thought they had innovative way of bringing something new to our people. So I'm forced to get out of my shell once in a while. But the truth is, I would rather be out of the limelight.
Well, you certainly haven't been that, especially with your recent column. I'm not going to bring that up right now, but I wanted to ask you. I mean, you're still a very active person. You know, it seems as if retirement hasn't slowed you down. What else are you doing besides the column? I know you're writing your memoirs, and I'll try to ask you about that. But what else do you do now? Well,
yes, there's not a single day when I was idle since I retired December of 2006. I sit in the board as independent director of several companies. I also am senior advisor or consultant of some others. And still some others consult me on their problems, especially legal problems.
Pro bono?
Well, some of them pro bono, some of them they fork out checks. But I am very selective about what I do because I would rather do my apostolate. You see, I have 10 apos already.
Oh, that's what you mean. Okay.
Yes.
Chief, just for the sake of disclosure, you are on the board of First Philippine Holdings.
Yes, I'm in the board of First Philippine Holdings, which is a company controlled by the Lopez family. That is involved with power generation, power distribution, manufacturing, and infrastructures like the North Luzon Expressway. ABS-CBN, however, is not one of the subsidiaries there.
That's right. And less people think that might bias you. You're also on the board of GMA7.
Yes, I'm also in the board of GMA7. I was invited by Henry Gozon and Jimmy Duavit to sit in the board of GMA7. I've known Henry Gozon over the last 40 years, since we were both practicing lawyers. And when he came to the house together with Jimmy to invite me, right after my, my retirement, I was happy, of course, that he was inviting me, and I accepted. Right after that, the Lopez patriarchs, I call them, Oscar, Manolo, and Gabi, also invited me to first sit also in the ABS-CBN board, but I said, since these are the competitors in the broadcast industry, I couldn't sit in both boards. Then Oscar had the bright idea, bright in quotation marks, of saying, well, if you feel you have a conflict of interest, why don't we invite you to sit in our holding company, First Philippine Holdings. You know, that's also something amazing, because when I was practicing law, in fact, when I was starting to practice law, I was an assistant of Senator Salonga in the Salonga Law Office. And it was, the Salonga Law Office was retained by Don Inying Lopez as counsel for Meralco Securities Corporation, which was the forerunner of First Philippine Holdings. Meralco Securities Corporation was organized by the patriarch, the #1 patriarch, Don Eugenio Lopez, to buy the Meralco from the Americans. And I was the one assigned by Salonga to prepare the articles of incorporation. And so when I got this invitation from the Lopezes to sit in the board of First Philippine Holdings as an independent director, it was like coming home. And of course, they were also happy when I mentioned that to them.
Sir, one of the things, I guess, and because you were obviously not free to do these things when you were in the court, but one of the things that I imagine that you might enjoy doing now is just having a social life.
Yes.
Because I know the more prudent among you in the court will make sure that while you're there, while you're sitting there, that you don't create the appearance of being too close to anybody. And so you try not to socialize. Do you enjoy now going out and talking to people?
Well, you see, I joined the Supreme Court directly. I did not go through the ladder, so-called. President Ramos appointed me in 1995 direct to the Supreme Court. So I did not have what we call a fortress before that. I was a practicing lawyer. I was a businessman. I dabbled in Rotary. I was active in the Catholic Church. So I had a little social life at that time. But when the moment I entered the court, I closed all those avenues. I resigned from all the organizations, civic movements, business companies I was associated with. In fact, my children and I went into a pact that I won't ask them about what they did, provided they don't ask me about what I do.
And you stuck to that?
We all stuck